most recent showing of Star Wars The Last Jedi, people were asked for their age as they walked in the door. In order to better understand the data, the theater asks you to construct a histogram to help them design their advertising better. The question they have is, what ages should we be targeting with our advertising for this specific movie? And a histogram is going to be really helpful for us because histograms will take our data and split it into gaps or intervals and then see the frequency that happens within each interval. The problem is that there are an infinite number of possible intervals that you can use to create the data. So I decided to break it up into two possibilities to see which is going to be better for this example. On the left side, I did gaps of 20 years, and on the right side, I did gaps of 10 years. So obviously, there will be more intervals on the right side, but the left side will give us a broader range to get numbers from. So between the ages of 0 to 20, there were 0 people that came to this movie that were young during this specific showing. From 21 through 40 was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Also noting that, notice if this interval stops at 40, the next one cannot start at exactly 40, or else a number can fall into both ranges. 41 through 60 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people came that were between the ages of 41 through 60. 61 through 80 is 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally, one person that was between 81 and 100. For the frequencies on the right, 0 to 10 is nobody. Nobody brought their young children with them. 11 to 20 was also 0. Nobody brought their teenagers with them. Must have been a nice, quiet movie. 21 through 30 is 2 people. 31 through 40 is 4 people. 41 through 50 is 1, 2, 3, 4. 51 through 60 is also 4. 61 through 70 is 3. 71 through 80 is 1. Nobody here, and 1 here. From our frequency charts, we now have to design the histograms, which I actually did about half of for us already. For the 10-year gaps, I did the frequency, or the histogram on the left side, but do you notice I actually cheated a little bit because the ages 0 through 20 had nobody in them. I completely erased it off the chart. Now, you do not have to do that, and in fact, sometimes it's a bad idea to do that depending on the information you're trying to show. So this one, I decided to leave those off completely. I did not leave off 80 to 90 because all of your intervals have to be consistent, and if I left 80 to 90 off, then it would have made one of these gaps longer. For the right side, I have the gaps of 20 years, which are here on this table. So between 0 to 20, there were 0 people that came from that age, but 21 through 40 had 6 people. So that means for this one here, I need to make it 6 tall. So that means I'm going to graph up here to 6. Between 41 through 60, there were 8 people that fell within that gap, so I need to shade up to 8. 61 through 80 had 4 people from within that gap. And 81 through 100 had 1 person within that gap. And so the question inevitably is going to be, which of these is better? And it's kind of a trick question because they're both really effective depending on what the advertising company is looking for. So if we notice that they want to know what age group is most frequent out of anybody, I would probably give them the histogram on the right and say target the ages 41 through 60 most. But if they said we want a wider range of ages to target, the one on the left is probably better because it shows between 20 through almost 80 is pretty evenly distributed from the data there. Now, another thing to point out before we're done, we went from a bar graph to a histogram in the original video. If I gave you just this data right here, it would not be possible to turn this into a bar graph because we know that there were two values that fell between 20 and 30, but I don't know what two values those were. We know that there were 4 values between 50 and 60, but we don't know if it was 55 or 59. So you can go from a bar graph to a histogram, but it is very difficult and sometimes impossible to go from a histogram back to a bar graph. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.